I'm doing this Jordan Peterson program, this self-authoring program, and in this program it has you identify your ideal future, and it also has you identify a future in which you don't desire, and a future that you really want to stay as far away from as possible. And I'm just gonna I figured I would kind of go through some of the stuff in my undesirable future that I really want to stay away from. And the first thing that I would really want to stay away from is lacking discipline. I think it could only lead to disaster. A future in which you can't control yourself and you cave in to your desires instantaneously is a scary future and should be something to be avoided at all costs. And to be clear, the future in which I want to have control over myself, but yet I feel like I'm so far gone from having that control is worse to me than the future in which I no longer care about having control and I've completely given up, if that makes any sense. Because I feel like if I no longer care about having discipline and I don't have discipline, then at least I'm not having that stress. I'm not having that internal struggle of, but shit, I really want to be better and I really got to do it and I can't do it. I can't find it within myself. I feel like that would be worse, if that made any sense. Another undesirable future for myself would be one in which I've never opened up my heart chakra and I've never learned how to love. And I treat everybody like shit and I treat myself like shit and nobody wants to be around me. I lack empathy. I make people feel uncomfortable to be around me. I give people bad vibes. That would also be another characteristic of mine in a future in which I really don't want to have. Another thing about myself in the future that I don't want is for me to be working at a job that I despise, and I keep talking about how much I hate it, but I can't find it within myself to get away from that job and go make money doing something that I actually care about. Complaining about shit that I want to change, but I can't change because I lack the discipline, and because here's another one is because I lack the passion to really want to put my best foot forward and make the change happen. So this is a transition to the next thing, is a future in which I don't want is a future in which I lack passion. And I'm kind of struggling with this right now. I'm struggling with like my passion part of me. I'm kind of just doing things because I know that they're the things that I need to be doing, but my heart's not completely in some of the things that I do anyway. So that's something to work on for sure. But a future in which I lack passion and I'm just mopey and I don't care about things. And I think this probably goes hand in hand with the heart chakra. I think opening up the heart chakra would lead to like the inducing of passion. Another characteristic of mine in an undesirable future is one in which I've completely abandoned my meditation practices and I've lost control of my mind, and I let my mind race and do whatever it wants and think about whatever it wants whenever it wants to, and I just completely stopped being mindful about what's going on inside of my head. In an undesirable future, I'm a slave to my mind, and my mind controls me, as opposed to my soul controlling me. Because if you look at it on a deeper level, there is mind and soul. They are not the same thing. We think thoughts all the time. We're thinking thoughts, and we have thoughts coming and going and coming and going, whether we want them to come or whether we don't want them to come. And that's not actually us. That's our brain. It's possible to shut the brain off and still be here. And that part that's here, once the brain's shut off somewhere else, is your soul. So for me to be a slave to my mind would be a world in which my mind is talking all the time and controlling me and having me do things that my soul doesn't want to be doing, and just completely taking over me. So sounds like an awful future. By the way, every single thing that I've mentioned so far are all things that I have experienced in my life before. Like, I'm not just stating things that I know that I don't want without me actually experiencing any of these things. I've experienced every single one of these things that I'm talking about, and I know damn well that I don't want these things for my future. So I am consciously putting these things out there to say that, like, hey, I don't want this for me in my future, and I want to actively be better and not let these things control me. So, not opening my heart chakra, being a slave to my mind, lacking discipline, lacking control, lacking order, all of these things. These are all things that I've experienced in my life, and I know damn well that I don't want them in my future. Yeah, and an undesirable future, here's another thing, is a future in which I somehow have things that I shouldn't have, and then that power kind of like, for example, I somehow have like, in a really bad future, I somehow get a wife, right? And like have a kid with this wife or whatever. But meanwhile, I don't love myself. I've never opened up the heart chakra, and I lack discipline and order in my life. And if I were to get a wife and have children with my life in the state that it would be, if that was the case, then that relationship with the wife would be shit. That relationship with the child would be shit. And that child's going to have to pay for my sins because I'm its father, and it's going to have a close connection to me. And funny enough, as I was writing all of this stuff, I was like, holy shit, that's pretty much like my dad. And it seems like every single thing that I'm writing down is like me trying to avoid being my father. And it's funny because I didn't really notice that until I kind of got like 5 paragraphs into it. I was like, holy shit, I'm just kind of like describing how I feel about my dad right now. But, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, so, you know, a really bad future is one in which the people around me have to pay for my sins, you know, like a wife and children have to pay for my lack of discipline and my lack of being able to love and all of that stuff. That it all sounds shitty. It's all stuff that I want to avoid. You know, if you make the same mistakes over and over again, like if you lack discipline and you want discipline, but you can't find it in yourself to have it, like that's going to lead to a hatred. Like you're going to hate yourself, and you're going to hate life, and you're going to hate the people around you. And it's just an all around shitty existence. Like that would be my definition of hell. All of these things are my definition of hell. If I were to take all of these things that I've mentioned and like escalated them to 100%, this is hell. And this is a future to avoid, for me at least. And you know, this is shit that I've thought about for a while here, so not talking out of my ass. I guess lastly, in a future that is undesirable for me is a future in which I'm a shell of the man that I once was, in a fraction of the man that I could be, and a complete disappointment to myself. If I were to look at myself 30 years down the line, or fuck it, like if I look at myself 10, 15 years down the line, and I think to myself, like, I'm never going to be the person that I once was. Like, I'm never going to, like, I have peaked and it's only downhill from there. Like, that's fucking frightening to me. I want to only get better. Like, if this is the best that I'm ever going to be, then that's fucking scary, because I'm nowhere near as good in any aspect of my life as I could be. So I'm working for an uphill trajectory here. And if this is my peak, then that's fucking terrifying. And that's a disappointment to myself. And that's quite frankly, a disappointment to everybody around me. So, yeah, in a future that I am trying to avoid is a future in which I have peaked at 22. Yeah, okay. I mean, I think that's pretty much everything. I don't really know what else to add. That's my shit. I'm going to make another video in which I'm going to talk about a future that I want to have, which actually, it's not just the complete opposite of everything that I've said in here. There's other things, but yeah.